Sup to all my peeps in the Permafuck family. Y'all ever hear about the rat Utopia experiment? If not, then buckle the fuck up because I'm going to tell you all about it. Between 1958 and 1962, behavior researcher John B. Calhoun built a series of enclosures for rats and called them rat utopias. Within these rat utopias, the test rats were provided with an endless supply of food and water. They were sheltered from natural predators as well as disease. All things considered, these utopias must have lived up to their names, at least from the rats' point of view, without having to hide from predators, as well as not needing to search for food or water. The rats were left with all the time in the world to just chill and reproduce. The most famous of these experiments was called Universe 25. For that one, they used mice instead of rats. So, you might be wondering, why put all this time and effort into making a 5-star resort for rodents? The goal of the experiment was to see what the effects of population density would be on the rats' social behavior. Now, you're probably asking, what were the results? At first, the rat population exploded, doubling every 55 days. But as soon as the population hit around 620, growth slowed way down, and their social structure began to fall apart. Soon, the rats exhibited some weird, troubling behavior. Let me know if any of it sounds familiar. Lots of the male rats became withdrawn/inactive. At the same time, female rats were neglecting their offspring. Not long after, the rats began forming groups/cliques, and this eventually led to conflict between these groups. So, despite having all the food and water they'd ever need, as well as plenty of space left, the rats still became territorial and aggressive. From there, the rat population dwindled and eventually died off. Their entire society collapsed, they ceased breeding, and they allowed themselves to be erased. This concept became known as behavioral sink.
Behavioral sink.
A phenomenon where overcrowding leads to a collapse in social behavior and psychological well-being.
So, did any of that sound familiar to you? If not, don't worry about it. Because we're moving on to the famous Universe 25 experiment. Spoiler alert. From here, things get even darker. We're gonna save that for chapter 2. Until then, you should check out the first part of my buddy Sean's new novel, The Nest, Part 5, Battle Island Lockdown. When you hear the prelude to the novel, you'll see that the Rat Utopia experiments were a major inspiration for author Sean Currier. Sure, the guy's a friend of mine, but the motherfucker's got a dark and twisted imagination, and is on full display in this book. The prelude alone should give you the heebie-jeebies. Here, I'll link it at the end of this video. But for now, you should totally consider subscribing to the National Film Board at CHNEDA. Because if you don't, well, then we can't guarantee that Karen over in HR won't receive an anonymous email informing her about all the foot fetish porn you've got stored on your computer at work. You sick fuck. Thanks for watching. Now don't forget what I said just now about subscribing. After all, Karen doesn't need to know your secret. Does she?